All right, Matt. Now, hometown. We're talking about Aurora here. We're looking at Freehold in particular. And this is something that, we've experienced. As you talk to local realtors, they'll talk about the same thing. We're seeing that month over month softening in prices. So we're down 2.4% comparison to February, which was already a little bit slow. Transaction volume, nice though. We saw a change in transaction volume. We're up a little bit. I mean, numbers percentage-wise, we're up a lot, 57%, but moving from 21 to 33 units. But the rest of everything that's going on out there, we saw a huge increase in our new listings. And of course, we'll get to active listings there on the next slide, but that carried over. This is the highest termination volume we have seen, Matt. 185% increase in terminations for the month of March. That is a staggering number.
That's huge. And even year over year, to go from just 22 terminations last March to 77 or 250% more it's quite a bit there. It's telling me, and I'm sure it's telling you, that there's a lot of price adjustments potentially that need to be made in that market.
Yeah, and you know what? I will. Let's read into it for a second. Those price adjustments were made. The termination happened. New listing came out. We can see the uptick in new listing. And hey, transaction volume went up. If you guys price it right, the buyers will come. Now, I say that because that's a true statement, but it does not mean that there's enough buyers for everybody. So at the end of the day, pricing is 100% like the most important thing that you can do for your listing to get it sold, for your home to get it sold and done right. But at the same point, there are just a lot of active listings out there with a smaller subset of buyers that we have now. When we're looking year over year, median price down 9%. That's a big hit. When I see that, Matt, that's also one of the biggest hits we've seen, particularly in the freehold market, for year over year declines.
Yeah, we did have 68 sales last year. We're down to 33. And in Aurora, you can have prices that are quite high on freehold homes. And you can have some of the townhomes and semi-detached that are a little bit less priced. So you can get some pretty big swings there when the sales have been cut in almost half there.
Yeah, that's fair. We are using median price that should help alleviate some of that, but with such a small sample size of only 33, it's not going to account for everything. So yeah, that is very true. And when I look around, year over year, there's definitely been a softening. There's definitely been a softening for sure, but maybe not in every pocket, because I've seen some neighborhoods holding their value quite well. So again, it's like everything in real estate. It's a local market, right?
Yeah.
All right, talk to me here about new listings, how we're sitting for Aurora.
Yeah, new listings, a lot like new market as well. We've seen 4 years. Yeah. Where we had higher new listings for the month of March. It's been a steady acceleration to the upside. The other years that had more were 2022, 2021, 2017 after the run up there. So we are accelerating to the upside. We should see a lot more new listings coming into April. But the bright side, I guess, is it's not as bad as what we see in a lot of other areas, with the new listings breaking to the upside in some of those areas significantly more.
Yeah, and now when we come in here to active listings, while we were up a little bit there in sales volume, which was nice, was not significant enough to make a difference in terms of what we're carrying for listings out there inventory-wise. We're sitting at about 205 active listings, and the only years higher than that, we had 2019 at 224 and 2018 at 239. And it's, after COVID, it's so easy to forget, for some, I guess, that in 2018, going into 2020 even, the market was still sluggish. Like, it was still sluggish. There was a lot of inventory, especially depends on where you're working. Like, York Region got hit exceptionally hard, I would say. It was particularly the detached market, because from 2016 up to that April 2017, there was such a run up on prices that it just did not make sense. There's pockets that of course hold their value like that, but when all those are sold, that spillover happened into neighborhoods that should not have been selling for what they were selling for, and you had that speculation and you had that competition. And so immediately afterwards, that's kind of what we were feeling from that change.
Sales volume. Some of the increases we saw in transaction volume is because of basically how low we were heading to the wrong way, going from January to February. And then now we've seen a bit of an uptick here in March, but we are significantly below even where it appears we were in 2020. If you look at April and May for them, just how low they got. So definitely sales volume is lagging big time from what we've seen in prior years.
You know, something that's messed up is we sold more houses, more freehold houses in Aurora when you weren't allowed to leave your house than we did this month. Yep. That's the reality of where our market is right now. March of 2025 is below what we saw for April and May of 2020, when a pandemic had just started and we were not allowed to leave our houses. I remember they were telling realtors we needed to print our real estate license to show that we were in fact realtors, because we were deemed necessary. I forget what it was. Yeah, we were deemed an essential service. And so. And I sold houses in April of May that year. We talked about this on one of our earlier slides. One of the best purchases our clients made were buying in that little slump there before everything took off afterwards. But wow, when you frame it that way, Matt, to say that we sold more when we were locked down for the first time ever than what we sold last month.
Yeah, that's wild.
Like you said, median price it's the same thing when we go back to sales volume. Yes, we're up, but we were trending the wrong way, especially for this time of year. And the sale price, same thing. We're trending the wrong way. For this time of year, we should be going the other way. And there's no doubt, you know what I think this is going to be, Matt? I think this is going to be a short-term issue. When you think about the whirlwind that tariffs have been in terms of in the news cycle, and wondering, and what's this trade war going to look like? Who are we aligning ourselves with? What are they going to do? End of January, all of February, and then spilling into March with the delay to April's announcement. I get it. I think that hopefully we're behind that news cycle a little bit, that people can just relax and get settled back in to what it is that they want to do. And this should hopefully, I'd imagine that this will turn around. And I think that we can just hopefully surpass what we had there in 2021, which is a crazy thought, that median price would be higher than what we're seeing in 2021.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting pulling this up to see that it had dropped below the 2021 prices. Typically, Aurora holds its value quite well compared to a lot of other cities.
Yeah, and I mean, let's take a look here at 2024, and it crossed over a couple of times, but ultimately it did finish the year above 2023, which was fantastic news. Like, this is where you and I were starting to get excited last year. We're properly seeing year-over-year gains again, right? And that's always what we want to see for people that are purchasing. The following year, they want to know that their investment's worth the same or more. And so it was looking good. It was really looking good after where some of the earlier parts of the year had been. And then hopefully we'll see that tick back up, because that is a little surprising to see after where we were headed. Talk to me about months of inventory.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a rollover in months of inventory to the downside there. Mm-hmm. But going back, again, we've had high levels of inventory in the Aurora market during the 2018, 2019 markets. Yeah. We haven't broken past that, which is a good sign. Yep. With all things considered going on here. But it does look like it's starting to roll over a little bit here. So it'll be interesting to see coming into April if we start to see sales accelerate, the amount of new listings starting to level off. We could see this number come down, but we are up at 6.61 months of inventory. So it's quite a high mark for Aurora.
Yeah. All right, coming in here looking at just the detached numbers, this is an important breakdown and distinction because we were watching that semi and townhome market a little bit, and it was struggling there for a little bit. And so it's interesting to see that we're starting to see this swing around here, specifically when we talked about detached. And as we go back to our earlier slide there, Matt, when I referenced some of the neighborhoods doing well, I am thinking about that detached market. So it's interesting to see that it's being reflected here in the data.
So when I pulled up this originally, I'd noticed that we had been talking about the detached in January and then in February, and we noticed that the February numbers were coming down to meet where we were in 2021.
Yeah.
Now, when I was looking at the data just detached by itself, I realized that we had swung up to the highest levels we've seen since 2024. We're above those numbers. So I said, okay, let's dig a little bit deeper. But when we come over to the sales volume, we see that just 19 properties have sold. And when we look at 24, 23, 22, well, there's significantly more sales happen. So what this is potentially telling me is that maybe we don't have enough sales to accurately reflect the price. Maybe a lot more expensive detached homes sold in the month of March than what we saw in February. So it's just a number to keep our eye on as next month rolls around. Maybe it will start to level back down, because I don't know if we had enough sales to accurately reflect where the price is going for the detached market.
Well said. It goes right back to our market overview that we showed at the top, where we brought up that very point. And when you look at this and you see that and you listen to what Matt's saying, what he's talking about is the homes in the premier neighborhoods, or maybe what would be the more expensive ones, seem to be the homes that are moving right now. If you're trying to understand why we're seeing this uptick, but where could the discrepancy potentially be, it's because our unit sales are so low. So we don't know for sure if this is truly reflective of a change in the market, or is it just that the homes in the nice neighborhoods or the more expensive neighborhoods are the ones that are selling.